Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 7 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com. I hope everyone's doing well on this Friday, June 2nd, 2023, my 281st episode today, and I'm looking forward to my guest. I'm just waiting for her to come on. Her name is Amy Lawrence. This will be her fourth appearance on Live with CDP Sports Talk. She is a longtime host of After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio since 2013, and this past winter and spring, she was a professor at Syracuse University, teaching the art of radio for Newhouse Sports Media Center there as well. So I look forward to speaking to Amy about that experience as well. So I hope everyone's doing well today, and I am doing well. I've been keeping busy with all my media work, and I was in Buffalo last week, and I was at the Argos last preseason game yesterday against the Ottawa Red Blacks. Ottawa won 34-23, but preseason's over, and the CFL regular season starts on June 8th. The Argonauts have a bye week, if you can believe it or not, and the Argonauts don't start their regular season until Sunday, June 18th. At 7 o'clock p.m. on a Sunday night at BMO Field against the longtime rivals, the Hamilton Tiger Cats as well. I want to say a special thank you to Chris Belnovich, who is the media manager of media relations with the Toronto Argonauts, for allowing me to cover the Argonauts at the University of Guelph training camp with doing player interviews and posting content as well. So shout out to Chris Belnovich and the Toronto Argonauts, and also to Rob Richardson and the Argonauts as well. As some of you know, I'm a first-time season ticket holder for the Argos this year, and the Argos were kind enough to do something for me yesterday. They ended up giving me a Wynton McManus signed jersey, which was awesome. So really, the Argonauts are a first-class organization to me as a freelance media member, but also as a lifelong fan of the Argonauts since 1979 as well, guys. Since we're waiting for Amy here, guys, I'm always do my rest of my ad for Barry Cullen Chevrolet. With Barry Cullen, spring into summer, 3.99% financing for up to 60 months. Eligible Costco members can receive a $750 bonus on select SUVs such as the 2023 Blazer, Traverse, or Equinox as well. So, and a shout out to Mark Cullen from Barry Cullen Chevrolet for sponsoring me as well. Mark Cullen will be on my podcast show next week, Wednesday, June 7th at 12 o'clock. And by the way, guys, I have a busy week. Tomorrow I have musician, singer, songwriter Chelsea Ray coming on tomorrow at 5 o'clock to talk about her music career. So please check out Chelsea Ray Music. And then Monday at 4 o'clock, Rick Zamperin, the longtime radio personality with CHML 900 and Hamilton. He's also the former Tiger Cats play-by-play announcer. And also, he's now the host of the fifth quarter post-game show for the CFL's Hamilton Tiger Cats on CHML 900 as well. So please tune in to Live with CDP Sports Talk tomorrow at 5 with Chelsea Ray. Monday at 4 o'clock with Rick Zamperin, and then next Wednesday at 12 o'clock with Mark Cullen, the president of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, as well. Our guest is here, so just one minute, guys. But I want to say thank you again to Amy Lawrence again from CBS Sports Radio for giving us some of her time out of her busy schedule. And again, you can tune in to After Hours with Amy Lawrence weeknights from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. only on sports radio as well. Good afternoon, Amy. How are you doing?
I'm good. I hope you can hear me okay. Sorry about being a little bit late. I was trying to find the right browser.
No worries. And that's the one thing I've learned in this industry, Amy, is you got to ad-lib and the show's got to go on. And I knew you're going to come on at some point.
Is that the one thing you've learned? I hope you've learned more than that, Chris. You've been doing this a long time.
Yes, this is my 281st episode since March of 2020.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I've created another podcast, which is called the Small Talk Podcast. It's a local news show as well. So I'm trying to branch out from sports as well and try to do a little bit of everything.
I don't know how you have time for that. How many episodes do you do a week?
Probably between 3 and 5.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for you, Chris.
Well, I don't look at it as work, Amy. Is when you're doing something that you love and have a passion for. I just really enjoy doing this, and I'm just hoping I get more opportunities in the future.
Well, I have no doubt that you will, and I'm glad you feel that way. I also have a passion for it, but I do consider it to be work, and I'm so happy it's the weekend.
One thing I've noticed about the weekends, Amy, is you want them to come by so quick, and then when they're here, they're gone quick.
They definitely are. Yes,
Definitely.
I agree with that.
Anyways, how are you doing, Amy?
I'm good. It's hot here. It's 94 degrees in my town. So we're having a little taste of summer even before it's officially summer.
Yes, right now it's about 92, 93 here. And I kind of wanted to go back to about 75, 80 would be perfect for me.
Yeah, I actually like the 4 seasons. So I'm good with whatever happens. People ask me that a lot. What's your favorite season? But I really do appreciate the beauty in all of them. And I would be bored if we had only one season all the time. I could never live in Florida.
That is true. I actually do like the combination. The only thing I don't like about our seasons is the month of May. There's a lot of pollen and it just kills my allergies. So for about 1 month a year, I suffer with allergies.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that same issue. I call it yellow season.
Yes, especially trying to get that stuff off your car. Too.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. I was going to say congratulations on your latest gig with Syracuse University. I believe Newhouse Sports Media Center as a professor of the Art of Radio course.
Yeah, it was really neat to be invited to teach a class that I created. And that to me was very special to go back to Newhouse where I earned my own master's degree in TV and radio, to be back in the same building where I took classes. And to not only experience academic life from the professor side of the business, but also to understand that Syracuse is one of the best schools in the country, training broadcasters for the future, and to be able to teach a craft that I have developed and that I have really given so much of my life and my energy to over the past 25 years, to share that wisdom and experience with a great group of students. I had 8 students. There were 4 grad students and then 1 senior and I think a few sophomores. But to be able to see them engage and answer their questions and listen to their different projects that they did each week, including their very first radio segments, that was such a rewarding experience. And I really do hope to add and develop the class moving forward. Syracuse has indicated that they were happy with it. And I met all the parameters for teaching. And so just waiting to hear back and see if there's another opportunity. But yes, it was scary, but it was also very rewarding and such a cool opportunity to be back where I started.
How many months was it, Amy, the course?
Oh, just 1 month. It was actually a 1-credit class over the course of 4 weeks. It was originally going to be 5 weeks, but they crammed it into 4 so that I could take fewer trips to the campus. So that was the hard part, was that I would work Sunday nights doing my own show in the New York City area. I would sleep for a couple hours. I'd have to wake up, drive the 3.5 hours to the campus, then do a few errands, maybe a couple meetings because I'm only on campus once a week, teach the class for nearly 3.5 hours, and then would have to get back to the hotel and in the springtime, watch hoops or hockey, prep for my show, talk to my producer, and then host the show overnight from campus, which was also really rewarding. But other than a nap quickly on Tuesday morning, I was up for nearly 2 days without a whole lot of break, and the driving was a lot. So I know that originally they offered me, or they were thinking about making the class 11 weeks and 3 credits, which does appeal to me, but I'm not sure I could do that schedule for 11 weeks in a row and still keep up with my own radio show. So we'll see what happens moving forward. That might be a challenge.
I assume you were drinking a lot of coffee too, as well.
Well, coffee, yes, but Chris, after a while you drink too much and it wears off. So you can only drink so much and have it be effective.
That's true. And Syracuse is one of the top schools in the States for broadcasting. I've had Matt Derry on from there, John Murphy, the voice of the Bills, a couple years ago. I hope he does recover from his stroke. And recently I had Sal Capaccio on from the Bills, and he went to Syracuse as well.
He did. I know Sal and I have connected. He's a great Bills resource. So I enjoy connecting with people in the broadcast business who went to Syracuse. There are many of us in the industry.
And I was going to say, if I was not 50, 51 and I was back in my 20s or even 30s, I would definitely consider going back to school for this. But that's why I'm working extra hard, Amy, because I know I'm taking the harder road to getting into broadcasting without the schooling part of it. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and try to keep improving every day.
I'm not sure there is one typical or conventional road to get into our business, Chris. I have run into a lot of people who didn't go to school or who didn't get a master's degree or who didn't necessarily start in conventional radio or who started as producers and then worked into the broadcast chair or who started in TV and then went backwards or who started in radio and then moved to TV. So I would say that there is no one path that gets you to where you want to go. And there's so many different opportunities now with the digital aspect of our business that you are exactly where you need to be, Chris.
Well, thank you. And I'm covering about 7 or 8 different sports leagues right now, including the CFL's Toronto Argonauts. And yesterday I got to go into a locker room for the first time in my life as a media member and get to speak to players right in the locker room. And that was quite the experience as well.
Yeah, you can have that. I did that a bunch in my career. It's not my favorite place to be.
Well, for me, it was the first time. So everybody in your profession, Amy, has been great. And now I have a show that's on a radio station in Georgia. It's done remotely, but it's baby steps.
Agreed. What do you talk about for your show in Georgia?
They like my show because it's Canadian and U.S. content, and I also now get guests on from the U.K., Australia, and Switzerland. So I guess it's because it's an international podcast show now.
Fantastic! Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And this show will be airing on WQEE 99.1 FM and Metro Atlanta soon as well. That's just a little plug for my station.
Yeah, you always have to be self and cross promoting.
Definitely. Just get to some questions, Amy. First one I wanted to ask you is just thoughts on the 2023 NBA playoffs overall and the Miami Heat amazing run as a number 8 seed.
It definitely has been. I think if you know the history of the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and what they have done over the past few years to really defy logic, it's not a huge surprise, but they always do it the hard way. They never take the easy road, but I think that makes them more battle tested. I think that makes the Heat more formidable because they have had to fight and scratch and claw for every inch of success they've had in not just these playoffs, but even going back to the bubble, right, where they were in the NBA finals. And how about last year running into the Boston Celtics, losing in a game 7 on their own floor, before they vowed to return to this point. And here they are. I'm sure by now you've heard the story of Jimmy Butler at the end of the regular season telling Coco Gauff, who's an American tennis player and a huge Heat fan, that she and her family could have tickets to the NBA Finals. He told her that in the, I think, the late stages of March, early April, before they were even in the playoffs. So that confidence, the unwavering confidence of Jimmy Butler, sets a tone for their locker room, sets a tone for not just the other players, but for the franchise as a whole. He's really been a revelation since he joined them. But if you look at the roster, he's the only superstar. Bam Adebayo is an all-star. He's a fantastic player. Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love, they're both former NBA champions, of course, Lowry in Toronto. And then they have a bunch of guys who have never had anything handed to them, have had to work extremely hard to get to this point, to stick with the team. Max Strus, who was cut by the Boston Celtics a couple years ago. Caleb Martin, also undrafted. I mean, these guys have never had it easy. And that together in their locker room makes a powerful chemistry that gives them an advantage. So yes, the 8 seed route is the tougher one, but looking at who these guys are, they are tough. They are tenacious. They perform their best when their backs are against the wall. And to that end, we've seen them use the same formula. They know their identity. They know who they are, and they're happy to be who they are. And that fit, it comes together so well.
Do you feel, in my opinion, do you feel Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, their head coach, get enough credit? Because I think Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA, if not the best. And Pat Riley, he's just a legend in this business.
He is. I do believe they get credit because their partnership goes back now nearly 20 years. Their partnership goes back to when LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh were the quote unquote big three there in Miami and went to 4 NBA finals in a row. Now, what's different about this particular group of guys, remember they've been in, 3 of the last 4 Eastern Conference finals. They brought in Jimmy Butler, so he was a wrinkle. As I say, there aren't a lot of superstars. Butler is, but he's also not always played well with others. And so he's hastened his exit in other places like Chicago, right? So this is a guy who you got to put the right pieces around him. But if you appreciate what he brings to the table, then you can, in fact, build a group that will function well with Jimmy Butler. But Pat Riley doesn't go the typical route where he brings in as many superstars as he can compile, right? He doesn't pay guys enormous amounts of money. Instead, he has a formula, he has an idea, he has a plan. And similar to Bill Belichick, he goes out and he finds the pieces that fit the formula. So it doesn't look the same as what it might look like in, say, Phoenix or even in Brooklyn, where those two franchises have tried to put together as many superstars as possible, even in LA. Now, I know the Lakers won the title in the bubble in 2020, but how many times have they retooled the roster since then? No, Pat Riley, he doesn't care about your credentials. He cares about whether or not these players fit the formula. And that's why I think it's really impressive. But yes, Eric Spoelstra, he brings consistency. He brings a tenacity as well. He brings this work ethic that it sets the tone for his locker room. And he's no nonsense, and he doesn't care about the fluff and the pomp and the circumstance. He cares about winning. And they've come so close that there's a powerful motivation there as well from the past few years.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I did not see game 1 last night, Amy. Just quick thoughts on game 1 last night. Obviously, Denver won 104-93. And do you think the Heat might be out of gas from that 7-game series against Boston?
I think there's definitely some fatigue. The fact that your top scorers, your best offensive options in Denver last night were Haywood Highsmith, who barely played in the first few series, but barely played in the 7-game grind against the Celtics, is indicative of that. But also Gabe Vincent, who had a couple of games off, didn't play as many minutes when he was coming off the ankle injury, I think it was. And so you've got two guys who have a little more gas in the tank. Jimmy Butler, He looked like he was settling for jump shots instead of driving to the hoop. You also had a bunch of guys who looked like they had tired legs. Max Strus, Caleb Martin go a combined 1 for 17 from the floor. But to be fair, this is more about the Nuggets. As much as the Miami Heat may have been out of gas, they still put together a run in the fourth quarter. This is about the Nuggets. It's about the Nuggets not being susceptible on their home court. It's about the Nuggets having so many options. It's about the Nuggets being aggressive from the jump. It's about Denver using Nikola Jokic in a variety of ways. And last night, they pulled him away from the hoop to pull the defensive Bam Adebayo away from the hoop because he's a great shot blocker. And instead, they're running cutters and they're running flashers into the paint so that Jokic can not just find his teammates, draw the defense and find his teammates, but so that he can be in a position where he's facilitating, right? And that's something he's so good at. So to see what Jamal Murray and Michael Porter and Aaron Gordon and even Kentavious Caldwell-Pope are able to do when he is pulled away from the hoop and there's room in the lane, man, it's impressive. And Michael Malone and his coaching staff deserve a lot of credit for finding weaknesses in the Miami Heat defense.
Absolutely. And there's a local guy on the Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray, who's from Kitchener, Ontario, which is about 15 minutes from my house. And I'm so happy for Denver and the Nugget fans because that franchise has been in the NBA for 46, 47 years. And this is their first ever appearance.
Yeah, it's amazing. And speaking to a former Denver Nugget, former NBA big man, Scott Hastings on my show last night, he works for Altitude TV in Denver. He said it's the loudest and most electric and raucous he's ever seen the arena. And he's been there for a long time. So they've waited forever to get this first NBA Finals appearance. And it's really cool to think about the fresh blood. And I know for hockey too, with that series beginning this weekend, you've got also two franchises who have never won a Stanley Cup. Now the Golden Knights haven't paid their dues for very long, but the Florida Panthers, they've come close and have never quite been able to get over the hump. So I'm excited for them and one of those fan bases that will have a championship for the first time.
Absolutely. And I think it's great for sports as well to see franchises that have never won get a chance. And we'll see what happens. What is the key to a Miami Heat win in game 2? Because they're going to have to win at least one game in Denver if they're going to win this series.
Well, I'm not sure if that's the case, but I do think that they enjoy grabbing home court advantage. They have got to, be aggressive and get to the free throw line more because they do excel at the free throw line. But they also need to take their brand of basketball into the gut of the Denver Nuggets, meaning don't allow them to guard your jump shots. Don't allow the defense to be able to keep them in front of you, which makes it a little easier on defense. Make the Nuggets work really hard on defense, which then could create an advantage for you on offense. Force some turnovers. Miami's really good at taking care of the basketball, but can you force turnovers on the Nuggets and turn the defense into offense at the other end? And of course, it's critical for them to hit their threes, but that will come. The shooting comes and goes. So I don't have any trouble believing that, similar to the Boston series, they'll find a groove and they'll hit their own threes. How can they guard Nikola Jokic? That's a huge challenge. Do they run two guys at him? Do they just put Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler on him? I think you want to make him work. Now, he's in better condition now than he was, say, 3 years ago. And so he's tougher now and he's a load and he requires a lot of attention. So it's tough to be sure because they've got so many different ways they can beat you. But I think the energy and the intensity, the tenacity of the Heat is an advantage for them. They want to make all their opponents work hard and look ugly on the offensive end. They want to force their opponents to grind as well. And if you can get the Nuggets out of their rhythm and out of their routine, that could be an advantage for Miami.
Yes. And Amy, I'm not making any predictions. The only thing I'm going to predict is I think this is going to be a long series. I'm just not going to pick a team. I do. So. And I hope that goes for the Stanley Cup as well. Are you okay for a few more questions, Amy? A couple more questions. Okay. Some of these moves I don't think have been confirmed yet, but just thoughts on, I'm hoping this is true, that Monty Williams is going to be the next head coach of the Pistons. Nick Nurse is confirmed. He has signed on as the Sixers' new head coach. And Ime Abdullah the former Celtic coach, is now with the Houston Rockets. Just thoughts on that so far.
And not just that, but Frank Vogel is apparently getting hired by the Phoenix Suns. So you have multiple coaches who have succeeded, varying degrees of success. But in the case of Frank Vogel, a championship coach with the Los Angeles Lakers in 2020. So he takes the Monty Williams seat in Phoenix. As you mentioned, Williams going to Detroit. You also have Nick Nurse, who won a championship with the Raptors not that long ago, who's now in Philadelphia, where they replaced Doc Rivers. I mean, it's essentially a revolving door, musical chairs even, of these championship veteran experienced coaches. So I'm glad that they are finding jobs. I know Frank Vogel had to wait an extra year. I look forward to seeing where Doc Rivers lands. I don't love, and Mike Budenholzer is still out there as well after winning a title in Milwaukee 2 years ago. I don't love this trend of what have you done for me lately, but I know it is the business. All these coaches know it's the business. What doesn't go out of style, even if a franchise believes there's a younger voice, a fresher voice, a voice that can get through to their locker room, or a voice that will bring a different system. I do think constant change equals constant losing. And there's something to be said in Philadelphia for the number of coaches they've cycled through recently. But what matters, I think, is that these guys are continuing to find jobs, and where they go, they not only have many ties, they can bring coaches in with them on their staffs, but also there are free agents and there are players around the league who are loyal to these coaches. So a lot of times they bring that with them. And certainly they walk into locker rooms, they have credibility right away. They have equity, especially if they've won a championship. And so I hate that it's such a volatile industry for these coaches, because many of them are high character, high quality guys. They've been in the business for so long. At the same time, I think when you're in the business of coaching in pro sports, you recognize it's a job hazard. There is no job security. It's a little bit like being in the broadcast industry and covering sports. So I'm really happy for these guys, and I look forward to seeing what type of foundation they can establish. And then I hope the owners of these franchises give them some time to not only rebrand, build a foundation, establish an identity, but then also find the players that fit those systems and fit those cultures, so then they can find momentum moving forward.
Absolutely. And as a Pistons fan, the Pistons haven't won a playoff game in 15 years. They haven't won a playoff series in 15 years. I'm hoping Monty Williams is finally the right coach for this team. And obviously Tom Gores is giving him a 6-year, reported allegedly 6-year, $72 million. Yeah. So the team hasn't made the announcement yet, but I think it's pretty well close to happening. So I'm just hoping the Pistons can finally have stability as a head coach and start winning again, because it's been a long time for from competitive winning basketball in Detroit.
Yeah, it's funny. As I mentioned, talking to Scott Hastings last night, he was part of the second Bad Boys championship. Going back to the late 80s, the early 90s. And I remember when the Pistons were a force to be reckoned with in the NBA, and it's been a while. But I don't think that constantly changing is always the right formula, the right mechanism to get the best person in place. And it's not always about the coaches. Sometimes it's about the players that the general manager brings in. It's, again, a very volatile industry. So I hope that as we see these coaches pick up, move, start over somewhere else, that we'll see the fruits of their labor begin to pay off in their new cities and with their new franchises.
Absolutely. And just got two last questions to ask you, Amy, quickly. Just quick thoughts on the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. And what do you think of the Stanley Cup matchup between Florida and Vegas? And Florida, another Florida number 8 seed gets to the Cup, just like the Heat did in basketball. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love this duo of the Panthers and the Heat. And I think with the Panthers, similar to what we were talking about with the Miami Heat, they have a ton of experience on their roster. They were the President's Trophy winners going back a year ago. And so they have a lot of pent-up motivation. They have a lot of guys who feel like they have unfinished business, right, from a year ago. And the way that the Panthers have come off that Boston series and have kind of steamrolled since is amazing. I think about how long the Denver Nuggets were off the basketball court. Well, think about how long the Florida Panthers have been waiting to get back on the ice. So they'll have fresh legs. They'll have extra energy and extra juice. And their journey is pretty incredible. I don't think it's shocking. It's the fact that they barely made it into the playoffs that's shocking, right? If not for the way that the Pittsburgh Penguins played at the end of the regular season, the Panthers likely don't even make it in. But also that's a little extra to be grateful for. They maybe recognize how close they came to not even having this chance. And so to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs and then to just catch fire. And of course, the goalie is always so critical in the playoffs too, right? I love the fact that you've got this group that is capitalizing on a second chance. I think as human beings, we recognize that second chances, third chances, sometimes we then tend to appreciate them more. We don't take them for granted. And I love this group that isn't taking it for granted, that has a lot of joy, has great leadership. It's been pretty incredible to see the addition of Matthew Tkachuk and what he's done. But it's as one reporter described it on my show, it's a fire and ice combination of Matthew Tkachuk and Sergei Bobrovsky and then everything in between. And he actually said that Tkachuk is the Jimmy Butler of the Florida Panthers. He brings that intensity. He brings that tenacity and that edge, that attitude, right? So I love that. And they're comfortable in pressure packed situations similar to the Heat. So there's a lot of similarities there. As for the Golden Knights, well, only 6 or 7 players are left from their first trip to the Stanley Cup final going back to 18 when they were a baby franchise, but they do have a ton of experience on their roster. And boy, do they have some power on their roster. They have guys who just love to star, right? And so that to me, they're much more flashy. I love what Jonathan Marchessault brings to the table, and to be able to add Jack Eichel. I mean, we're talking about star power on this roster. And so yeah, they've had success against some of the best teams in the West. And now to see them moving forward, I really do love the fact that they can dazzle you with all the various ways they can score and the speed that they can put out there. It's a lot of fun to watch that team play.
And I did see Matthew Tkachuk play junior A hockey here with the London Knights and won a Memorial Cup championship. So he knows how to win, and he's a winner. And I'm not surprised what he's doing in the NHL with the talent he has.
Look at it. That's awesome. By the way, since you are Canadian, what's your feeling on touching a conference trophy as opposed to the Stanley Cup?
It's a superstition. Hockey is always been one of the most superstitious sports. And I find hockey players are probably the most superstitious out of all the other athletes. Personally, I don't see the problem with it, but I guess that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I'm not real superstitious, but I do think it's funny when these guys get goofy about what they will and won't do.
Absolutely. And last question I wanted to ask you, Amy, and we'll wrap it up. Just thoughts quickly on the NFL's off season, and who do you feel might be Super Bowl contenders? And
oh my gosh, it's June, Chris.
June. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
I will say that I've enjoyed seeing some of the moves. I'm interested in where DeAndre Hopkins ends up because I think he can be an instant spark to an offense. I tell you what, while we're talking about Florida teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars are positioning themselves to be a major force this year. And the way they ended the season and grabbed the AFC South title because Tennessee backed up. I love that they got that into that championship game, into the playoffs, but into the position to win the division championship maybe a year earlier than what a lot of people thought. So while we're talking about veteran coaches, how cool is it to see the transformation that Doug Peterson has made in Jacksonville? And then they add Calvin Ridley along with the extra experience and the pieces with Trevor Lawrence. Now, can their defense catch up with their offense? I think it's a good question, but I really love the progression. And again, the fact that they're a year ahead of schedule and already they have playoff games under their belts, right? That incredible comeback against the Chargers last January. So there's a team to watch, and they're not satisfied yet. But yeah, I'm talking about NBA coaches being recycled. Doug Peterson, same thing, won a Super Bowl with the Eagles and now has a chance to do that with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And of course, I have to mention Detroit. I am all in on the Lions. The NFC North is wide open. And it was last year, even before Aaron Rodgers departed. Yes, the Minnesota Vikings had a fantastic regular season, but still, they have not been able to break through that glass ceiling in the playoffs. So Detroit, Minnesota, that should be fun to watch in the NFC North. And the introduction, the rollout of Jordan Love, too.
Absolutely. And one thing I'm curious about is Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Is it going to end up better than it did with Brett Favre with the Jets in 2008?
Well, Brett Favre was using that as a stepping stone. All he really wanted to do was get back into the North and play for the Vikings. But I do think you see a motivated Aaron Rodgers, a happy Aaron Rodgers. Like a lot of people, when they get a fresh start, when they feel wanted in a new job, they tend to bring an extra confidence, an extra level of just juice, and he wants to stick it to the rest of the NFL, not to mention the Packers. And we know this guy carries a chip on his shoulder, has done it now for almost 20 years. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that AFC East is going to be tough this year. And
yes, the Bills are awesome.
And as for the Eagles, I'm just going to take one game, 1 week at a time, because you know this, Amy, in sports, there's no guarantees next year. I think the Eagles will have a very good team, but we'll just see what happens.
Of course, it's going to be awesome.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up, Amy. Again, where can my audience follow you on social media? And when is your show After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio?
Well, you can always find us on my Twitter, A-Law Radio, or our Facebook page, After Hours with Amy Lawrence. And I love to connect with people. We've had so much fun this week over things as dumb as a video of a whale with some people on a surfboard and whether or not it was real. Crazy stuff. This morning, we were having fun talking about athletes or entertainers that you'd like to give you directions on the Waze driving app, and the amount of people, the amount of interaction, the number of responses we got was awesome. So yeah, on Twitter or on Facebook, the show airs 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern time, so Atlanta as well as Toronto, but you can always listen on our podcast, which is available on our social media. And then we're on SiriusXM 158 or a variety of apps. So thank you, Chris, for letting me promote. I appreciate it.
Hey, and thank you for coming on my show for a fourth time. And I really appreciate it.
Is it 4 times?
Well, 4 times now. You're getting up there. You're getting up there. My one friend from TSN's been on 7 times, but
oh my gosh.
Yes. But you're one of my favorite guests, and
Aww.
I appreciate your friendship and support. And I will let you know when the show airs on WQEE 99.1 FM. They have me on weeknights from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and I'm happy being in prime time. So I'm very lucky. I appreciate it.
You're working hard, Chris. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. And maybe one day you'll have to write a book about your career as well and all your stories.
Only when I'm retired. It's hard enough for me to write a blog post these days. But yes, the spring sprint is over, so it'll start to settle in a little bit, which is nice.
Okay. I'll have to send you an email in the future because I am learning how to do digital writing, and maybe I'll ask you for some tips on writing as well.
Oh, I'm always happy to help when I can, Chris.
Okay, Amy. Well, thank you so much. I hope you can get some sleep, rest, and enjoy the NBA final Sunday night and the Stanley Cup on Saturday night at 8 o'clock as well, Amy.
All right. Talk to you soon, Chris.
You too. Thank you so much, Amy.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed Season 6, Episode 7 of Live with CDP Sports Talk with today's guest, Amy Lawrence, the longtime host of After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. She is on weeknights from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on CBS Sports Radio on their app and all the audio platforms such as Spotify and Apple, etc. as well. So really appreciate Amy coming on here again today, guys. Before we wrap up this show, guys, I'm going to show you a little bit of a clip with an interview with Toronto Argonauts head coach Ryan Dinwiddie from last night's preseason game here in Guelph, courtesy of my YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. Just 1 second. I'm going to play the clip now with Coach Dinwiddie of the Grey Cup champion Argonauts.
For the most part, I was right on Wall Street. I described it away, but certainly over the course of the last 7 years, it's not like he's been standing still, but he hasn't played a full season as a starter since he was at Ole Miss. How do you approach the next few weeks, knowing that you have seen him buy in, have so much initiative during training camp? But the CFL season is long; it goes over such a big country, so much weather. How do you you develop a plan with him, how to attack the different weeks?
Well, yeah, just we want to put him in a position to be successful, right? So we got to tailor our offense around what we feel he does well, and I think he's played well, and he's got to continue to improve each week. And like Chad, week 1 is probably not going to be. Chad's going to be week 12, right? He's going to be well more experienced. But we feel good about Chad, and there's some other things we got to clean up. But I don't think our starting quarterbacks are a problem.
Number 2, then, how do you assess that?
That's tough. I think some guys, Brian and Cam have shown some strides, and they can do some good things. But they're relatively new, right? So they're gonna have some growing pains. We got to find one we can count on that will win some games if we're called upon. So yeah, we got some tough decisions there. Who's the 2 going to be? We'll see.
Richardson didn't look good with his ankle coming off. Any early indication of what it is?
Yeah, it's not a high ankle, which is good. So we feel like he might be out a week or 2, but so we didn't know for week 1. So haven't got a chance to talk to Dr. Shea.
How do you plan this week off? I mean, certainly the next couple hours will be assessing the roster and making cuts. But what does the next 2 weeks now look like?
Yeah, so we're going to give them 5 days off. With tomorrow will be one of them, and then we're going to come back to work. We got about 4 days extension training camp during the bye week, so we're going to be working there. We got a ways. We've got a ways to go, so we got to improve on that week as well. So we got a plan for that. We already got it kind of scripted. Some kind of concepts we don't look at, some teaching wise, and it's going to be vital for us to be ready for week 1 on those bye weeks. Use those days the right way.
How do you approach the guys getting their rings? They'll be getting them in a couple of days. You kind of allow guys to sit in the thought of last season. It's the cliche we always ask the champion. How long do you sit in the accomplishment of the previous season before you go ahead and wipe that clean?
Yeah, so the 8th we're getting our rings, and that's our first day on the field. So we're going to get some work during the day and then get on the bus, and we got a place we're going to for that. So, I mean, those guys earned it. They deserve to enjoy that night. And when I'm sure coaches, staff, everybody's part of that's going to enjoy that night. But we've been preaching that we're not looking in the mirror at all. We're not worried about last year. Last year. We're focused on this year. And like I said today, we had a bad performance today. Not what we wanted to do to finish camp, but we can't go dwell on that look in the mirror either. We just got to keep moving forward and continue to get better and keep working along with it.
How will you, along with the front office staff, Alex and Vince, John, and Pinner, of course, how will you assess your roster and what's going to go into decision making?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to look at the film tonight. I got to watch, all 3 phases. We'll go over it in the morning and review it, go over the grades, how guys graded out. We had a mock deal the other day, kind of guess what our roster looked like, and didn't feel like there was a lot of deep discussion. After tonight, I think it's going to be deep discussion of a few positions.
One of those players, BJ Bird, who is a little new and had the punt return for a touchdown. Is he someone that you feel like maybe he's opened the door for a possibility, on this roster?
We'll see. I mean, he'll be here probably for sure. I don't know where it's going to be, but BJ's played well. He's been great all camp, so we knew it was going to be a tough discussion with some of our rookies. RJ got hurt last week after catching the touchdown. He showed some good things, but he wasn't available tonight. Lonnie's, explosive athlete, a lot of upside, can return as well. So, it's gonna be a tough decision tomorrow. We gotta go through each guy's opinion and how it should play out, and we'll sit down and figure out the best route for him. But I think he'll be here.
How do you feel about the secondary? There were some big plays that they got tonight. Just a lot of new guys trying to get communication down. Or how do you feel about?
They're young and we're really high on them too. But they showed their inexperience tonight. Didn't play as well as we thought we anticipated doing. So we'll look at the film, see if they're correctable mistakes. But we feel we got some good young guys in the secondary. But youth, that's part of it. There's gonna be some growing pains. So we just got to make sure they're not big mistakes, and but we got to be able to count on them. Can't count on them. They're not going to be on our roster.
Is he not going to be ready for week 2, week 1, week 2?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see there. So we got some discussions and see from there. So yeah, we feel good about JJ. We feel good about Jordan, right? And then we got Witten coming back, and could have played Witten probably this game and towards the end, but we just didn't feel like it was worth risking it. So, but Witten's got to get on the field on those days too, and then get caught up and make sure he's ready to go.
And Priester and Gittens.
Yeah, Curley could have played today. he's fine. I just didn't want to do it. I've seen Kirby enough.
Yeah.
I've already evaluated Kirby. So, we'll see. We're
Okay, guys, that clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to Live with CDP Sports Talk, or just type in my name, Chris Palme, as well. Last night, I covered the CFL preseason final game between the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Toronto Argonauts. Ottawa won 34-24. Ottawa finishes the preseason 1-1. Toronto finishes at 0-2. The Argonauts, the Grey Cup champions, hard to believe, have a bye week. So the Argonauts do not start the regular season and open the home opener until Sunday, June 18th, 7 p.m. against their longtime QEW rivalries, Hamilton Tiger Cats at BMO Field. If you want to come to the game like I am, I'm going as a fan this time. You can get tickets at argonauts.ca. And I want to say a special thank you to the Toronto Argonauts organization, Chris Belnovich, for allowing me to attend training camp at the University of Guelph these past 3 weeks, and for letting me do 5 player interviews. And also to Rob Richardson from the Toronto Argonauts for coming up to me last night and giving me a gift. I went in McManus, signed Argonaut jersey for being a first-time season ticket holder. The Toronto Argonauts are a first-class organization when it comes to their players, their coaches, the media, and the fans as well. So please come down to a game this year at BMO Field in Toronto. You'll really enjoy it. It's affordable entertainment, and you can also take the GO train to exhibition grounds as well instead of driving down there as well. So check out argonauts.ca, and I'm excited about the 2023 CFL season and the 2023 Toronto Argonauts. And speaking of that, myself and my co-host Nick Small are going to do our first Argo Bounce live audio show of the season tonight at 9 o'clock on Twitter Spaces. So just type in at Christy Palme on Twitter, and me and Nick are going to talk about the Argos preseason and training camp and preview the game against Hamilton on June 18th as well. Finally, guys, we're going to wrap this show up live with CDP Sports Talk. Again, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Season 6, Episode 8 is going to be tomorrow, Saturday, June 3rd at 5 p.m. Eastern, with my special guest, Chelsea Ray. She is a country singer, songwriter, and the winner of the 2019 Josie Award for the Song of the Year for Every Storm. So if you're a country music fan and a Chelsea Ray fan, please check out Live with CDP Sports Talk tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm looking forward to that show with her as well. Also, guys, I have another show on Monday. Monday's Live with CDP Sports Talk. Again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Monday, June 5th at 4 p.m. Eastern. My special guest will be Rick Zamperin, the morning host from CHML 900 in Hamilton and the host of the 5th quarter post-game show for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So Rick's going to come on Monday, 4 o'clock, and we're going to talk the 2023 Hamilton Tiger Cats, what he expects from this team, and also about the Grey Cup being back in Hamilton in 2023 as well. And maybe a little bit about his Leafs. Rick's a big Toronto Maple Leafs fan, but Rick is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And this will be Rick's third time on Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. So if you're a CFL fan or a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan, tune in to Live with CDP Sports Talk this Monday at 4 o'clock as well. All right, guys, like every show, Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. Thank you to everybody for watching this show episode today on live stream as well. You guys can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme, all my digital content and previous podcast shows on YouTube there as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or call them at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com as well. And again, guys, spring into summer at Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 3.99% financing for up to 60 months. Eligible Costco members can receive a $750 bonus on select SUVs, such as the 2023 Blazer, Traverse, and Equinox as well. And Mark Cullen, the president of Barry Cullen Chevrolet, will be on Live with CDP Wednesday, June 7th at 12 o'clock as well. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. I post a lot of content and a lot of my coaches and players interviews there as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. I highly recommend it as well. And finally, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk, the podcast, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, and Tuned In. And again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Metro Atlanta, the home of Southern Talk in sports. And a shout out to their station manager, or my station manager, Ryan O'Neill, for giving me this opportunity to have my show on his radio station there as well. And finally, guys, before we wrap this up, you guys can always email or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpame19@gmail.com, or text the show at 519-820-7188 as well. Again, I want to say thank you to Amy Lawrence from CBS Sports Radio, the host of her After Hours with Amy Lawrence show, weeknights from 2 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. for coming on Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. If you guys can give me about 15 minutes or so, I will have this episode downloaded to all my audio platforms as well. So I hope everybody has a great evening. I hope you guys on the weekend can enjoy the Stanley Cup Finals, which start Saturday night at 8 o'clock in Vegas, Game 1 between Florida and Vegas. The NBA Finals, Game 2 will be Sunday night at 8 o'clock from Denver's Ball Center, or Ball Arena, where Miami is going to try to even up the series at 1-1 as well. And again, guys, check out the Toronto Argonauts website at argonauts.ca. Again, the Argonauts are now finished training camp and are back in Toronto preparing for their regular season and home opener against the Hamilton Tiger Cats on Sunday, June 18th at 7 p.m. at BMO Field. If you can't make it to the game, you can listen to it on TSN 1050 with Mike Hogan on the radio, or you guys can watch it on TSN on any of their TSN channels. Or if you guys want to come down, you can buy tickets from argonauts.ca. I hope everybody has a great evening. And again, thanks to Amy Lawrence for coming on. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night for Season 6, Episode 8, Fly with CDP Sports Talk with Chelsea Ray. Again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and on WQEE 99.1 FM. Have a great evening, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow for Live with CDP Sports Talk.